I thought I knew my wife. After 30 years of marriage, I believed I could read her like a book I'd memorized cover to cover. I want to pause here for just a moment, because what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you think you know about the person sleeping next to you every night. My name is David Chen, and I'm 62 years old. I spent 3 decades as a forensic accountant, tracking down financial fraud for some of the biggest corporations in California. I could spot a fake invoice from a mile away, catch embezzlement schemes that had gone undetected for years, and trace money through offshore accounts that criminals thought were untouchable. The irony of my story isn't lost on me. I could see through everyone else's deceptions, but I was completely blind to what was happening in my own home. Margaret and I met in our early 20s at a charity fundraiser in San Francisco. She was working her way up the corporate ladder at a tech company, fierce and ambitious in a way that made her stand out from everyone else in the room. I was drawn to her confidence, the way she commanded attention without demanding it. We married within a year, built a life in San Diego, raised 2 incredible children. Lisa is 28 now, a successful attorney at a downtown firm. Tom is 25, working as an engineer at an aerospace company. Everything looked perfect from the outside. Hell, it felt perfect from the inside too, or so I thought. Margaret climbed the corporate ladder exactly as she'd planned. By the time our story really begins, she was a senior vice president at a major pharmaceutical company, managing a team of over 200 people across 3 states. The job required constant travel. Chicago one week, Boston the next. Sometimes flying to conferences in Europe or Asia. I was proud of her. I'd scaled back my own work as I approached retirement, taking on fewer clients, spending more time at home. We had an agreement. Unspoken but understood. She'd chase her career dreams, and I'd be the foundation that kept everything stable. Our 30th anniversary was approaching. 30 years. 3 decades. It's the kind of milestone that makes you reflective, grateful for the life you've built. I wanted to do something special for Margaret, something that would show her how much those 30 years meant to me. I decided to create a video montage for the anniversary party we were planning at the Fairmont Grand Del Mar, the nicest country club in San Diego. We'd invited over 100 people, family, friends, colleagues, everyone who'd been part of our journey. The video project became my obsession for weeks. I gathered photos from every year of our marriage, videos from vacations and birthdays, clips of the kids growing up. I wanted to tell the complete story of us. That's when I needed Margaret's old iPad, the one she'd replaced a few months earlier but kept around. I knew she had photos on there from a trip to Napa Valley back in 2018 that I wanted to include. I found the iPad in her home office, plugged it in to charge. When the screen lit up, I noticed she was still logged into her iCloud account. I wasn't snooping. Let me be clear about that. I was looking for photos in her library, clicking through albums, when I noticed something strange. There was a shared photo stream I didn't recognize. The name was just a lightning bolt emoji, nothing else. Curiosity got the better of me. I tapped on it. The first photo loaded slowly. It was Margaret, sitting on a beach I didn't recognize, wearing a red bikini I'd never seen. She was laughing at something off camera, her hand reaching toward whoever was taking the photo. The next photo showed her from behind, the same bikini, the ocean in the background. Then another. Margaret at a restaurant, candlelight on her face, leaning across a table toward someone the camera couldn't capture. Margaret in bed, the sheet pulled up to her shoulders, her hair messy, her expression soft and satisfied in a way I hadn't seen in years. My hands started shaking. I kept scrolling. There were over 300 photos in this stream. 300 moments of my wife's life that I knew nothing about. I checked the dates. They stretched back over 3 years. While I'd been home planning retirement, thinking about grandchildren, looking forward to growing old with the woman I loved, she'd been building an entirely separate life. I needed to see who else had access to this photo stream. I clicked on the sharing settings. One other person. The account name was RT Fitness, a personal trainer. Of course, I opened Safari on the iPad and Googled RT Fitness San Diego. The first result was a boutique gym downtown called Ryan Torres Fitness. His website loaded, and there he was, Ryan Torres, 34 years old according to his bio. Chiseled jaw, perfect teeth, The kind of abs you see in fitness magazines. His specialty was personalized training for busy professionals. I bet it was. After 30 years of marriage, you think you know someone inside and out, don't you? You think you know every habit, every expression, every secret. But people are capable of living double lives right in front of you. And if they're careful enough, you'll never see it coming. I sat in Margaret's office for hours, the iPad in my hands, going through everything. I found text messages, iCloud synced from her phone. "Miss you already," she'd written to him 2 days ago. "Chicago is boring without you." 2 days ago, she'd called me from her hotel room, asked how my day was, told me she loved me before hanging up, and then she'd texted him. I found her calendar, business trips color-coded in blue. But when I cross-referenced them with her credit card statements, which I pulled from our shared financial account, I started seeing the cracks. A hotel in Cabo San Lucas during a trip she said was in Chicago. Restaurant charges in Miami when she was supposedly in Dallas. She'd been smart about it, mostly using her corporate card, but there were enough personal charges mixed in to paint a picture. The financial abuse wasn't like the video investigations I used to conduct. She wasn't stealing from our accounts. She was using company resources to fund her affair, yes, but more than that, she'd been hiding asset purchases. I found receipts for gifts I never saw. A Rolex watch, $14,000. Luxury hotel stays. First-class flights that were supposedly for business, but the dates didn't match her work calendar. I am a forensic accountant. This is what I do. I follow the money. I build the timeline. I construct the evidence until there's no room for doubt, and that's exactly what I did. Over the next 2 weeks, I barely slept. Margaret noticed I was distant, asked if something was wrong. Just stressed about retirement planning, I told her. She bought it. Why wouldn't she? I'd always been the steady one, the predictable one. She'd never worried about me before. I hired a private investigator, a former colleague who owed me a favor. I gave him Ryan Torres's information, asked him to dig. What he found was worse than I'd imagined. Ryan wasn't just Margaret's affair partner. He was a serial manipulator. The investigator found 3 other women, all successful professionals, all married, all having had relationships with Ryan within the last 5 years. One of them had divorced her husband and given Ryan $50,000 before he disappeared from her life. Another was still married but had refinanced her house to give Ryan money for a business investment that never materialized. Ryan Torres wasn't a personal trainer. He was a predator with a gym membership. But here's what really got me. One of those women, one of Ryan's other targets, was still in an active relationship with him. Her name was Jessica Monroe, and she was married to a man named Eric. The investigator gave me Eric's phone number and said, "I think you two should talk." I called Eric from my car, parked outside a coffee shop where Margaret and I used to meet for lunch dates that stopped happening somewhere around year 27. He answered on the second ring. "Eric Monroe." "Mr. Monroe, my name is David Chen. I know this is going to sound strange, but I have information about your wife that I think you need to hear." There was a long pause. Then, quietly, "Is this about Ryan Torres?" He already knew. Or at least, he suspected. We agreed to meet the next day. Eric was 48, an engineer like my son Tom, working for a defense contractor. He looked tired, the kind of exhausted that comes from carrying a secret that's eating you alive. We met at a bar in Mission Valley, sat in a back booth where no one could overhear. "I've known for about 6 months," Eric said, nursing a whiskey. "I found texts on her phone. When I confronted her, she said it was over, that it meant nothing, begged me not to leave. I wanted to believe her, but it wasn't over. No, she just got better at hiding it." I showed him the evidence I'd gathered on Margaret. He showed me what he had on Jessica. The parallels were disturbing. Same gifts, same lies, same patterns. Ryan had a playbook, and he ran it on every woman the same way. "What are you going to do?" Eric asked. "Our 30th anniversary party is in 3 weeks. 120 guests. Margaret thinks it's going to be the crowning moment of our marriage. I'm going to expose everything." Eric stared at me. "In front of everyone? In front of everyone?" He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Can I help?" That's when the plan really came together. 2 husbands, 2 cheating wives, 1 manipulative personal trainer, and 1 anniversary party where the truth would finally come to light. I contacted a lawyer the next day. California is a community property state, but infidelity can still influence court decisions, especially when financial malfeasance is involved. My lawyer advised me to document everything, freeze any accounts I had control over, and prepare for Margaret to fight back hard. I did all of it. I opened a new bank account she didn't know about, transferred half of our savings. I changed the passwords on our investment accounts. I prepared a separation of assets document that my lawyer said was fair but firm. Then, I prepared the slideshow. I'd originally planned to show 30 years of happy memories. Instead, I created something different. The first half would be exactly that. Genuine photos from our life together, our wedding, the kids, family vacations, Christmas time, mornings, all the moments that had been real. Then, at the midpoint, the tone would shift. I'd show the evidence. Screenshots of text messages with timestamps. And Chicago is boring without you visible. Credit card receipts for hotels in cities she'd never mentioned visiting. Photos from the shared photo stream. Margaret on beaches I'd never been to. At restaurants I'd never heard of. And throughout it all, photos of Ryan Torres pulled from his social media, showing him at the exact same locations on the exact same dates. The slideshow would be undeniable. It would tell the story better than I ever could with words. But I added one more element, one final twist that Eric suggested, and I couldn't resist. I invited Ryan Torres to the party. I created a fake email account, pretended to be a potential client, interested in high-end personal training for corporate events. I told him I was planning a large party and wanted to hire him to give a brief presentation on wellness and fitness, something to entertain the guests. I offered him $5,000 for 90 minutes of his time. He accepted immediately. Ryan Torres would walk into my anniversary party having no idea what was waiting for him. The 3 weeks leading up to the party were surreal. Margaret was excited, helping plan details, talking about her speech, completely oblivious. I played my role perfectly. Loving husband, excited about the milestone, grateful for 3 decades together. At night, lying next to her in bed, I wondered how she did it. How do you come home and kiss someone you're betraying? How do you say I love you when those words have become meaningless? Lisa and Tom could tell something was off. Children always can, even when they're adults. Lisa cornered me one afternoon when she stopped by the house. "Dad, are you okay? You seem different." I almost told her right then, but I couldn't. Not before the party. She'd try to stop me, or she'd tell Tom, and it would create chaos I couldn't control. "Just nervous about the party," I said. 30 years is a big deal. She hugged me. "You and Mom are relationship goals. You know that, right?" I held her tighter than I probably should have. The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. Margaret was snoring softly beside me, completely at peace. I stared at the ceiling and thought about all the ways this could go wrong. Margaret could leave before I finished the slideshow. Guests could get angry at me for ruining what they thought was a celebration. My children might never forgive me for publicly humiliating their mother. But the alternative was living with this knowledge, pretending everything was fine, letting Margaret believe she'd gotten away with it. That wasn't acceptable. I'd spent my career uncovering truth, no matter how ugly. I wasn't about to stop now. The Fairmont Grand Del Mar was stunning that evening. The ballroom overlooked the golf course, string lights hanging from the ceiling, round tables set with white linens and centerpieces of white roses. 120 people showed up, Margaret's colleagues from the pharmaceutical company, my old clients and friends from the accounting world, neighbors, family members who'd flown in from across the country. Lisa wore a blue dress that made her look exactly like her mother did 30 years ago. Tom kept the mood light, making jokes, keeping people entertained. Margaret was radiant. She wore a silver gown that sparkled under the lights, her hair styled perfectly, her makeup flawless. She worked the room like the executive she was, greeting everyone, thanking them for coming, playing the role of devoted wife, celebrating 3 decades of marital bliss. I watched her and felt nothing. That's what surprised me most. Not anger anymore, not sadness, just emptiness. Eric Monroe arrived early, as planned. He brought Jessica, his wife, who had no idea what was coming. I'd invited them as friends from work, and Margaret didn't question it. Why would she? She was too busy performing. Dinner was served. Salmon and filet mignon, wine flowing freely, laughter and conversation filling the room. I barely touched my food. Margaret kept squeezing my hand under the table, leaning over to whisper, "This is perfect. Thank you for doing this." At 8 o'clock, the DJ announced it was time for speeches. Margaret went first. She talked about how we met, the early years of struggle and ambition, raising our children, growing together through joy and hardship. She quoted Mary Oliver. She made people laugh and tear up in equal measure. When she finished, everyone applauded, and she kissed me. Her lips felt like a stranger's. Then it was my turn. I stood up, microphone in hand, looking out at all those faces. People I'd known for decades. People who'd been part of our story. People who believed what they were seeing was real. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began. My voice was steady. I'd practiced this. 30 years ago, I married the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. And in many ways, we've had a beautiful journey. We raised 2 incredible children. I gestured to Lisa and Tom. We built careers we're proud of. We created a life that looked, from the outside, like everything a marriage should be. Margaret was smiling at me, tears in her eyes. She thought this was heading toward sentiment. But 3 weeks ago, I discovered something that changed everything. I want to share that with you now, because I think honesty matters more than appearances. And for too long, I've been living in appearances while someone I trusted lived in lies. The room went quiet. Margaret's smile faltered. "I've prepared a video," I said. "It tells our story better than I could with words alone." I nodded to the DJ, who started the slideshow on the large screen behind me. The first images were exactly as planned. Our wedding day, Margaret in her white dress, me in my tuxedo, both of us impossibly young. Photos of Lisa as a baby, then Tom. Christmas mornings, birthday parties, graduations. The room relaxed. This was what they'd expected. A sentimental journey through 30 years. Then, the music changed. The tone shifted. A screenshot appeared. Margaret's text messages. "Miss you already. Chicago is boring without you. Date stamp visible. 2 weeks ago." Gasps rippled through the room. Next slide. Credit card receipts. Cabo San Lucas Hotel. Dates matching when Margaret told me she was in Chicago for business. Miami restaurant charges when she'd said she was in Dallas. Margaret stood up. "David, what are you doing?" I didn't answer. The slideshow continued. Photos from the shared photo stream. Margaret on a beach in a red bikini. Margaret at a romantic dinner. Margaret in bed, hair messy, satisfied smile on her face. "Stop it," Margaret said, her voice rising. "Stop it right now." Then Ryan Torres's photo appeared, his professional headshot from his website, followed by photos of him at those same locations, same beaches, same restaurants, timestamps matching perfectly. The room erupted. People were talking over each other, some standing up, some staring at the screen in horror. Lisa was crying. Tom had his arm around his sister, his face pale. "There's someone else I'd like you all to meet," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. Ryan Torres was supposed to be here tonight as a hired fitness presenter. He's in the lobby right now, waiting for his cue, but I think we should bring him in for a different reason. I signaled to a staff member, who opened the ballroom doors. Ryan Torres walked in, confident and smiling, completely unaware. He was wearing a tight black shirt and dress pants, carrying a gym bag, looking like he was about to sell everyone on the benefits of CrossFit. His smile disappeared the moment he saw the screen, saw his own face up there next to photos of Margaret. "Ryan," I said into the microphone, "thank you for coming. I want everyone here to know that you're the man my wife has been having an affair with for the past 3 years. While I was home, while our children were building their lives, while I believed in the sanctity of our marriage, you were sleeping with my wife. On beaches in Cabo. In hotels Margaret charged to her corporate card, in beds that weren't mine." Ryan froze. The color drained from his face. Margaret was screaming now, You have no right. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You humiliated yourself, I said calmly. I just showed people the truth. Eric Monroe stood up from his table. Since we're being honest, he said, I think everyone should know that Ryan has been sleeping with my wife too. Jessica and Margaret aren't the only ones. There are at least 3 other women we know about. Ryan Torres is a con artist who targets successful married women, manipulates them emotionally, and bleeds them financially. Jessica Monroe stood up, her face red, tears streaming. Eric, how could you? How could I? Eric's voice cracked. How could you? The ballroom was chaos now. People shouting, crying, some trying to leave, others pulling out phones to record. Ryan Torres tried to run, but 2 of my friends, both former military, blocked the doors. I hadn't asked them to do that, but I wasn't surprised. They knew me. They knew what this meant. I've already filed for divorce, I said to Margaret, my voice still calm, still measured. My lawyer has all the evidence. The court will see everything. I've frozen our joint accounts and divided our assets according to California law. You'll get what's fair, nothing more. Our house will be sold. You can pick up your belongings next week at a time we'll arrange through our attorneys. Margaret looked at me with pure hatred. You self-righteous bastard. You think you're perfect? You were boring, David. Boring and predictable and always putting work first. Ryan made me feel alive. Ryan made you feel like an ATM, I said. And you were too blinded by middle-age crisis to see it. Lisa ran out of the room, Tom following her. That hurt worse than anything Margaret had done. My children, caught in the crossfire of their parents' destroyed marriage. The party ended in shambles. People left quickly, murmuring to each other, some stopping to squeeze my shoulder or whisper, I'm sorry. Margaret's colleagues from the pharmaceutical company looked mortified. I just torpedoed her professional reputation, along with her personal one. Ryan Torres slipped out when he got the chance. I didn't try to stop him. The damage was done. Eric Monroe found me afterward, in the empty ballroom, sitting at our table while staff cleaned up around us. That was brutal, he said. Yeah, Jessica confessed everything to me in the parking lot. She's begging for forgiveness. Are you going to give it to her? Eric sat down next to me. I don't know. Are you going to forgive Margaret? I thought about it. About 30 years of history, about the good times that had been real even if the ending was poisoned, about my children who would have to carry this trauma forward. No, I said finally. I don't think I am. The divorce took 6 months. California community property law meant Margaret got half of everything we'd built together, but the evidence of her affair and financial malfeasance influenced the judge's division of assets. I kept the house, initially, then sold it because being there felt like living in a museum of lies. Margaret moved into a condo downtown. The fallout at her company was swift. Using corporate resources for personal affairs violated multiple policies. She wasn't fired immediately, but she was demoted, reassigned to a lesser role. Her upward trajectory permanently derailed. Within a year, she resigned and took a position at a smaller company for less money and no travel requirements. Ryan Torres had disappeared from her life the moment the scandal broke. Funny how love evaporates when the money and secrecy do. Eric Monroe and Jessica tried marriage counseling for 3 months before he finally filed for divorce, too. I couldn't get past it, he told me over coffee one afternoon. Every time she said she loved me, I heard her text messages to Ryan in my head. My children struggled. Lisa stopped speaking to me for 2 months, furious that I'd humiliated her mother publicly. You didn't have to destroy her like that, she said when we finally talked. You could have handled it privately. Would that have been honest? I asked. Everyone in that room thought we had the perfect marriage. They would have kept thinking it while I quietly divorced your mother and pretended everything was amicable. I'm tired of pretending. Eventually, Lisa came around. She started seeing the photos I'd shown her, the timeline of lies, the way Margaret had constructed an entire secret life. I just wish you'd told me first, she said. I couldn't. I had to do it my way. Tom was more understanding from the start. Mom made her choices, he said. You just made sure everyone knew what those choices were. A year after the anniversary party that never was, I received a text message from Margaret. It was 3 paragraphs long, apologizing for everything, asking if we could meet for coffee, saying she'd made terrible mistakes and wanted to try to repair our relationship, if not our marriage. I read it twice. Then I blocked her number without responding. Some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness. Some lies are too fundamental to come back from. Margaret didn't just have an affair. She built a parallel life, lied to my face for 3 years, and would have continued lying if I hadn't accidentally stumbled onto her iPad. The woman I married 30 years ago wouldn't have done that. The woman I married ceased to exist somewhere along the way, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I sold our house in San Diego and bought a smaller place in Carlsbad, right near the beach. Lisa and Tom visit regularly now. I retired fully, stopped taking on clients, started volunteering at a legal aid clinic helping people navigate divorce proceedings. Turns out my forensic accounting skills are useful for people trying to untangle their lives from unfaithful partners. Last month, Tom told me he's engaged. His fiancée is a pediatric nurse, smart and kind, and nothing like his mother. The wedding's next summer. Lisa asked me if I'd walk her down the aisle someday when she gets married. "But Dad," she said, "please don't expose anyone at my wedding." I laughed. "I'll behave. I date occasionally now. Nothing serious. I'm 62 years old, learning how to trust again, taking it slow. There's a woman I met at the legal aid clinic, a divorce attorney named Patricia who understands what betrayal does to people. We've had dinner a few times. She doesn't expect me to be healed or whole yet. She gets it. Sometimes I think about that anniversary party, about the moment everything exploded, about Margaret's face when she realized what I was doing. People have asked me if I regret it, if I wish I'd handled things differently. I don't. For 30 years, I lived in what I thought was truth. Then I discovered it was partly fiction, a story Margaret told that I believed because I wanted to. The anniversary party was me choosing truth over comfortable lies. Was it messy? Yes. Was it painful? Absolutely. Was it necessary? I think so. Because here's what I learned. Your worth isn't defined by someone else's inability to see it. Margaret's betrayal said everything about her and nothing about me. I was a good husband. I was faithful, supportive, present in the ways that mattered. She chose to throw that away for someone who made her feel alive but really just made her feel used. And standing up for yourself isn't revenge. It's self-respect. If I'd handled the divorce quietly, let Margaret control the narrative, allowed people to think our marriage just ran its course naturally, I would have been protecting her lies. I would have been complicit in the deception. Instead, I chose radical honesty. I chose to show everyone exactly what our marriage had really been. 30 years of my loyalty met with 3 years of her betrayal. Was it brutal? Yes. Was it fair? Absolutely. I'm not proud of destroying Margaret's reputation, but I'm not ashamed of it either. She destroyed our marriage long before I exposed it. All I did was refuse to keep her secret. My therapist tells me I'm doing well, all things considered. I see her twice a month, talk through the anger that still surfaces sometimes, the occasional dreams where I'm back in that ballroom watching the slideshow unfold. She says those will fade with time. I'm not sure I want them to. The anger reminds me I'm alive, that I still care about things, that I haven't become numb. Tom's fiancé asked me last week what advice I'd give to young couples starting out. We were at dinner, the 4 of us, and she was holding Tom's hand across the table in that way new love does. Like if you let go, the person might disappear. Trust your gut, I said. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't make excuses for behavior that doesn't match someone's words. And remember that marriage is a choice you make every day, not just once at an altar. The moment your partner stops choosing you, you have permission to stop choosing them. She nodded seriously. Tom squeezed her hand tighter. But also, I added, don't let my story scare you. Most people are good. Most marriages make it. I just happened to marry someone who wasn't and didn't. Last week, I saw Margaret at the grocery store. We hadn't crossed paths in months. She was in the produce section, looking thinner than I remembered, tired. She saw me and froze. For a moment, We just stared at each other across the apples and oranges. Then she looked away, grabbed her bag, and left without buying anything. I finished my shopping. That night, lying in my bed in my house that's mine alone, I thought about the man I was a year ago. The one who believed in forever, who trusted completely, who never would have imagined standing in a ballroom exposing his wife's affair to 120 people. I don't miss him. He was naive. He was willfully blind. He chose comfort over truth. I'm better now. Harder, maybe. More cynical about love and loyalty, but also more honest, more willing to face reality even when it's ugly, more committed to living in truth rather than pleasant fiction. Tomorrow, I'm meeting Patricia for coffee. She wants to introduce me to her book club, a group of people who read mystery novels and solve imaginary crimes together. It sounds nice, normal, the kind of thing people do when they're rebuilding their lives, one small, careful step at a time. And maybe, eventually, I'll be ready to trust someone completely again. Maybe I'll believe in forever one more time. Maybe Patricia or someone like her will prove that not everyone is like Margaret, that some people mean it when they say, for better or worse, and until death do us part. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stay single, focus on my kids and future grandchildren, find meaning in work and hobbies and friendships, rather than romantic love. Either way, I'll be honest about it. No more pretending, no more comfortable lies. Because if there's one thing I learned from the worst night of my life, it's this. Truth might be painful, but it's always better than living in someone else's carefully constructed fiction. 30 years of marriage ended in one evening. But in that same evening, I got my self-respect back. I'd make that trade every time.